What's up, guys? Welcome back to our weekly recap show. This episode, we've got Jacob, our DM, as always. We've got Zach, our head moderator, and we've also got Corey, who plays Locknar. This will be the final week of having all of our cast on, so that's exciting. Corey's the last one who needed to do some stuff, and he's actually got. Yeah. Um, so this week we're going to be going over episodes 9 and 10, which I got up a little bit later this week because I was on vacation last week, but 9 and 10 are both up. Another important thing, 9 and 10 should be the final two episodes where we figure out our main technical issues that we've been having. So that's exciting as well. I basically, once again, I did not control my volume very well, so I am muted for like 30 minutes at the end of episode 9, I believe, which I just left it in there. I didn't like try to cut anything out because my part was not important in that episode. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. How we're going to do this is basically I'm going to sit here and talk about what happens through episode 9 and 10, just so that everyone can get the recap. And then Zach is going to have a set of questions that he's going to ask from an outside perspective. And these questions are going to be based for the whole group of all three of us who are on here right now. And then he'll have a couple specific questions for Corey's character, Locknar. So,
you don't have to answer them in character, though, Corey. You can just be you.
If I want to.
You can do it if you want to.
You can do whichever one you want.
Yeah. All right. So,
I'll play my role.
to start off, so episode 9, we actually come back from a cliffhanger in episode 8 where we had just had a situation where an explosion happened at the college, where Anzu is a professor, the Cobalt Conservatory, and my character and Thea's character we were in Westerund, and we all ran back to the place, or to the college, the school, I should say. We keep calling it a college, and realistically it's just a school. We run back to the school, we all group up, and we realize a ton of students and faculty have been kidnapped and taken, and nobody knows what happened to them. So after figuring some stuff out, it honestly takes me and Hunter, mostly Hunter, too much time questioning children where he should not have been questioning them. It took us a while to figure out what we needed to do, and what we needed to do was we came to this portal that had been created within the school, and my character Animus fixed the portal, and all of our characters went through, and we ended up on the top of this mountain. On the top of the mountain, we ended up fighting the what were they called? Horror birds? Horror?
Oh, they're hook beasts or something
Hook
like that.
horrors or something like that.
Yeah.
Horrors or something.
Yeah. So we had like a little fight at the top of the mountain, and then it led us into this cave. Inside of this cave is right around the time when my mic cut out. Not really that important, though. Once again, my character did not do much for the rest of this episode, and I think the conversations that you can hear on the other side of my very brief conversations should make enough sense. Basically, we went into a cave. My character turns into a large boa constrictor, and then Bronze stealthing ahead of us as usual. We ended up going through the cave. I don't know if we fought any more things in there, but we got to this one room where there was a pedestal at the end of episode 9, and we had to figure out another puzzle. And at the end of the puzzle, we had to put a weight on one side, and it took us about 20 minutes to figure out we needed to put a feather on the other side, which was like our light object. I was still a boa constrictor. I didn't really want to turn back into a bird, but I needed to, so I did. That was the end of episode 9. Now, one important thing that happened in episode 9 that we're actually going to talk to Corey about is Anzu takes time before we leave to go down into the vault, or not the vault, like kind of the vault. It's like the important part of the castle, and he looks at their armory, and Corey's character Locknar ends up getting a new sword named Giant's Bane, which is his current sword now. Also getting rid of, also getting rid, not getting rid, but retiring or sheathing his old sword Flamnar. And Giant's Bane has a bigger story to it. It's a lot of fun to watch Corey talk to this sword that ends up being childlike in nature. So we'll talk to him more about that. And then a couple of the other characters get very important weapons, as one that Braun got was his main sword, the Rose's Thorn. Yep. Alright, so jumping into episode 10, we figured out that one puzzle, and it made us float up into a little room where these statues were. My character walks up and touches the statue. We cut out from episode 9, start episode 10 there. I don't think they ended up did we end up having to fight them? They were like statues of some sort that we had to fight.
Yeah, they were golems.
Yeah, so we fought them. They were golems. Moved into the next room, which was another important room for Anzu. This was a very Anzu heavy storyline throughout the time we were at the Cobalt Conservatory, as it should have been. And it was this room where there used to be a large brain in the middle of it, which was part of like the whole religion of these people that we thought we were trying to find. And there were a bunch of bodies lying in the room. A couple of them that we recognized, and they are dead now. And on the roof or the ceiling of this place was this red goop that kind of splashed down, and we didn't end up fighting. We ended up sitting there and just kind of like figuring it out. And Anzu then took it in, and it's now one of the members of our group. It's Cube. It's a red cube of goo that can shapeshift into whatever it has encompassed. So it shapeshifts into Locknar every once in a while. For Anzu, he actually has it constantly as a part of his finger. Since one of his fingers are gone, he just has the goo as his fourth finger. So from there, we move through that room. We get Cube. That was a pretty big chunk of that episode, actually. And then we move into the next room where we kind of like go through some tunnels, and there's this big room where we come out, and there's these two rooms on the side, and there's like some trap chests, and that's a whole thing in itself. And then there's a big portal at the end of the room, and Braun ends up having to leave, or Michael ends up having to leave at the very end, in about like the last 30 minutes. So we get to the end of the room, we get through these chests, we're standing in front of the portal. Anzu just jumps on in. Jacob makes us roll a d6, and like whatever number you roll is where you randomly end up in the ruined city of Mythather. That's what it's called. And that's the next episode, episode 11. So wherever we jumped in and whatever we roll is where we end up in that city. So through that situation, we have Anzu jump in, Braun jumps in, he ends up in an arena, and then he has to get off. And then we have a little... What, sorry?
Yeah, Anzu shows up in a bar.
Anzu shows up in the basement of a bar with a bunch of liquids. Braun jumps in next, he ends up in an arena. I cannot remember the exact order. If one of you guys can, you might want to... Thea jumps in, and she ends up with...
in a like old general goods store.
Yeah. Well, she ended up with...
Yeah, Zygon jumped in and showed up at a Wyvern holding center, basically, and then
that was with
Anzu. And then Locknar was with Thea.
Yeah, I ended up with... Yeah. Locknar ends up with Thea. I ends up with Anzu in the bar. Zygon and Braun eventually find it. Yeah. So that's all stuff you'll see in the next episode. But basically, that's where we ended that. The reason my character wasn't going to jump in, and neither was Zygon or Locknar. But there was a large creature coming up behind us that was, Jacob said, was way too strong for us. It was probably the strength of a young dragon, and since we already had half of our group, including our healer, jump through, there was no chance we were going to fight it. So we all jumped through.
Locknar was thinking about it though.
Yeah.
Locknar wanted to. Locknar was really thinking about it.
I think Zygon was too, and I was just waiting for your guys' thought because I wasn't gonna leave unless you guys were ready to leave. But we all ended up jumping through. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions for this episode. We can go ahead and have Zach start asking what his first questions are for the group or for Jacob.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm ready for your questions.
Okay, we'll start with this. Jacob, so what goes into like writing the script for a session? Like, do you have like a plan for a few sessions and you just go through that story arc?
So individual sessions I kind of plan the week of. With this one that we've got coming up, I've had 2 weeks to plan, so that's going to be fun. But it's usually the week of, and then I usually have story beats that I want to hit. I'm kind of wanting to structure these arcs like a 3-act structure. So like the first few episodes are set up, the middle episodes are like the big climax stuff, and then the final like 2 or 3 episodes are like the ending. So I know what story beats I want to hit, and then I fit those into the story.
Cool. So I guess I can lead into how you level up the characters. Do you use like the traditional D&D level up system, or do you have your own little thing?
So D&D has 2 major level up systems. Either one, you get XP or experience, like in any RPG that you'll play, like a video game. The other is milestone leveling. So the DM decides when a time in the game story constitutes leveling. So when we started with experience leveling, but everybody was leveling really fast. So I wanted to slow that down. So now we've kind of moved more to the milestone thing, which the way I see milestone experience is either story progression. So like after each arc, they're going to level at least once. Or if a character does something that is very close to them, like for example, when spoilers if you haven't seen the show yet, but when
we'll be talking about it in the future anyway. So
when Animus makes a certain deal, he got a level immediately. He immediately leveled. Or when Thea touched that piece of that crystal, she immediately got a level.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought about leveling Locknar in our most recent session, but since he lost that fight, I didn't want to reward him for losing.
It probably wasn't quite a major
not
story
quite. Now I
milestone
think
for him either.
His character growth is going to trigger soon. I think we're gonna unearth some Locknar, but
one can hope.
Yeah, we started out doing experience leveling, and now we're transitioning more into milestone leveling.
Cool. This one is for the group. So this is the 10th episode on YouTube. From the past 10 episodes, is there anything you guys wish would have been done differently? Whether that's your guys' decisions as players, as DM, maybe a certain character type that you wish would have been there.
I mean, I can start off with my side of the technical stuff.
Yeah, okay, there we go. That's another one.
And I can talk about my character real quick too. Technically, I think my character's fine. I think how I've played my character is to my character. And there's not much I would change because, like, looking back, like, I really enjoy. It's like if you were to ask someone if they'd go back and change something in their own past, you would be like, probably not, because it makes me who I am today. I enjoy where Animus has come as a character in the past. For us, I guess it would be almost 5-6 months now, almost 7 months of. We're coming up to our full year, so. Technically, I wish I had understood how to work. Number one, OBS. That was my first time using OBS. Number two, Twitch. Both of those were just a learning experience and growing and pushing forward, as well as the fact that we were still in school at the time. Like, school was still a full thing. I still had 15 hours a week and plus I had a job, so being able to just work on like what you guys are seeing right now, this weekly recap overlay, is something I was able to do because I had so much time after school got canceled for pandemic reasons. So I do wish though that if we could go back, I was able to just smooth everything out so that it's more watchable, easier for people to get like entertained and watch with, but not that big of a deal. The other big thing I wish that I think all of us probably would wish is understanding almost a little bit how to role play a little better, and not even just role play, but like playing a certain character sometimes comes with, you have to realize you, like me as Caleb, would want to do something different than what Animus might want to do as a character. But because I've played a good amount of D&D before, I was like, I'm able to kind of cut myself out of myself, Caleb, and put myself into the character. But like for all of us as a big group, it was hard to kind of like me and Hunter, we've had like a couple areas where me and him are talking more as Caleb and Hunter and not as Animus and Anzu, you know. So that's another thing I wish is like I just kind of like all of us can move into sticking with our characters, which we've done really well, especially with moving online, which you would think would be harder, but I think it's helped a lot of us because we're not we're all just kind of like chilling out in a nice
I think us
location.
not being in the same room as each other has allowed us to kind of be a little bit more open. Because like there was always that like, oh man, if I do a silly voice, everyone's gonna laugh and
Yeah.
that's gonna throw me off. But now it's like if I do a silly voice, I can just mute you guys. So, what about you, Corey?
Um, the only thing I think I see it very similar to how Caleb slash Animus deals with it. Most of the decisions I've made, and I'm still not, I'm still working on the roleplay aspect. I think I've gotten a lot better since we first started, and trying to put myself into the head of the character instead of actually making rational decisions like I would most of the time. But I think the only regret I think I have looking back is not addressing Giant's Bane more, because I got it in this episode, and to be honest, I don't know where it's going, and that kind of makes me happy. And you've got a shitty grin on your face or are you frozen?
He might have been frozen, but it's still
it's still a shitty grin.
yeah.
But for I'm excited to see where Giant's Bane is going to go, especially with this upcoming episode, because as we saw, Locknar can kick some ass with his bare hands, and maybe he doesn't need Giant's Bane. And I don't know how Giant's Bane is gonna like that,
Yeah. All right. Let me make sure Jacob's up for a sec. So we'll jump back into what Corey was talking about. He was talking about getting into his storyline with Giant's Bane a little bit more.
Yeah. So you missed this, Jacob, but we haven't been able to like really address Giant's Bane and what makes it a sentient creature and like the backstory.
Is there a real name?
Locknar's kind of just gone with it more out of I don't even know if Locknar has addressed it to the group that he can talk to his sword. I think the people have like maybe picked up on me talking to my sword occasionally, but
Could be Locknar being weird though. Like
it could be Locknar just talking to himself because he's kind of an odd dude. Yeah.
So Zach, to answer your question about regrets or anything, I just wish Hunter had never found Counterspell. I wish like he had just never found it, because like
Oh no.
I know it's becoming like a meme at this point, but oh my gosh, I hate it. And like I think boss design is something that I've really started to worry more about. Because like basically every boss that you guys have fought so far has done nothing, and it's ticking me off.
I mean, you just gotta. I don't know. It's more something of like it's just how he wants to play with Counterspell.
Oh, don't worry.
But
I'll be taking care of it.
well, this is a conversation we had with Brady too. When Brady jumped on here, we were talking about how sometimes you want to play your character the most meta you possibly can, which everyone wants to do at most points. Like if you're in the middle of a fight, you want to play pretty meta most of the time, and most players do the same thing. It's the easiest way to finish a fight. It makes your character look a lot stronger. So with Brady, he has Eldritch Blast, which is one of the most OP cantrips of all time. You can use it as many times as you want.
Not
and
one of it is.
It is, yeah. It's the most OP in like damage-wise cantrip you can use in battle. So he said he doesn't like using it all the time because it's just repetitive, it's very meta, and you just like it almost gets boring to use all the time. With Hunter, Counterspell is super hilarious. It's been absolutely hilarious every time he's pulled it out. Brady's even pulled it out back to back with Hunter, and I think it was one of my favorite moments. But going forward, when we need those spell slots more and more, Hunter may need to be a little bit more careful about whether he wants to use it, or even just for story purposes, he might hold off on using Counterspell for the future. But so far, I've loved it from my perspective. Jacob can hate it as much as he wants.
But I guess another answer. I want some of the NPCs to have a little bit more prominence. And it's kind of interesting from a DM perspective. You never know which characters you make are gonna impress or kind of stick with your players. So like when I made Oscar, this is a little bit of a throwback. I knew immediately they were either going to hate him or love him, and like Vesper is a really interesting character. And then I think my favorite character right now is Mathis. He was just recently introduced. And
we'll jump into that because that's stuff that's way later than what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, but I think that like I'm just learning how to make NPCs have a little bit more of an impact on the players. So.
Yeah. All right.
I don't necessarily hate Oscar.
Yeah, Oscar was a
Locknar
fun
does.
character, but
yes.
as a group, our characters were very annoyed by him. So
well, I can understand it because Oscar gets distracted easily, and he's
very high energy.
He's very childlike.
He was cool though. He was a cool character. I liked him.
Yeah. He'll be around again. He's not gone.
Oh, I know. We'll see him again. Zach, what do you have any more questions for the group?
Not for the group. We can just move into Corey.
All right, let's jump into Corey.
Cool. First question. What went into creating Locknar's personality? Did you always just want him to be a drunken idiot, or did he just kind of evolve into that?
And so I mean, since people have been like, people in this group have been, showing me things from other D&D groups, I've realized that my character is kind of tropey in a way. He's a common a type to make, like just a dumb barbarian. But I always knew from the start I just wanted to make a dumbass, a lovable, funny dumbass that just likes to drink. Because
life.
I'm not saying that I'm a dumbass, but I have dumbass tendencies, definitely, as we all do.
As college drinkers, yes, we all had dumbass tendencies, and yeah.
And I knew we were going to be drinking, and I thought I would just fuel that into our D&D sessions, allowing me to drink a little bit more, So I think mainly it was the mix of alcohol, but also the mix of like just being able to knock things around. I didn't know much about D&D coming into this, and I knew that I was probably going to enjoy the battles the most, and not so much the role play. I've come around to the role play definitely in the past few months, I think. But the battles, I think, are what I've always enjoyed the most, specifically from last week. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Sorry to cut you off there. It helps a
Yeah, no,
lot
you're good.
for you to, and it makes sense for you to enjoy battles more because your character's you built such a tank that you can literally run into battle and you can just be like, I'm gonna pick up Anzu and chuck him across the battlefield, and then I'm gonna swing my sword. Like it's just random stuff like that. It's like so funny to watch you play it. So
Yeah, no, and that's really what it went into the character. There's, I think I do have a pretty good backstory that we haven't gotten into yet, and as time progresses, we'll get more into that. But I think I built the character very well. Thanks to Jacob. Thanks in part to Jacob.
Oh yeah, I remember when we were designing Locknar. I was like, Corey, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to punch stuff. And I was like, boy, do I have a class for you.
I mean,
then,
Monk though.
We kind of just went into it.
You make
like,
me
Corey
sound
is
so much
also
like
a good
Locknar.
example of he had never played before, so I usually encourage my new players to kind of play more simple, but not necessarily
Boring.
easy classes.
Well, I mean, there's not really any. If you would say the easiest classes in D&D, one of them I would say would be.
It's either rogue or.
I mean,
barbarian.
well, easiest to understand right away. I would think barbarian or fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe even a monk. Monks are pretty simple.
Monks are simple, but they have a lot of like.
They progress quickly though.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I'd really like to see how Corey's kind of brought Locknar to life, because I was worried when we were starting like he was just going to be like a drunk idiot. But I think we're starting to peel back that onion and see some of the layers underneath.
Hey, barbarians, they're like onions. They have layers.
They're also like parfaits.
Nobody likes parfaits.
Oh well.
Next question. What were Locknar's feelings about getting the Giant's Bane sword? I know he really loved his Flamnar, but then to get this really good sword, kind of what was going through Locknar's head during that?
So, I'm not sure much was going on in his head.
He just went, ooh, shiny.
Basically, and it sucks because I personally love Flamnar. I know, Locknar really likes Flamnar. Mainly because, I do the Bill and Ted thing.
But you still have him though. You still have him on your back, but you just don't use him.
I haven't gotten rid of him. Yeah.
And if you could eventually dual wield those swords, it's possible.
That's kind of what I'm holding on to Flamnar for. I hope that'll happen.
Insane.
Or something else might happen.
Or if Jacob upgrades Flamnar someday, because right now his damage is still pretty.
Yeah, the damage.
We've out leveled his damage at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Which happens. It happens.
I mean that's D&D for you.
Yeah, but Giant's Bane. I haven't. That's another can of worms that we're going to open eventually. Where it comes from, why it's sentient. Is Giant's Bane even the real name? I think somebody in this group mentioned that earlier in this chat. That I don't know a lot. Well, Locknar doesn't know much about him, and I can see your shitty grin, Jacob, because you have ulterior motives.
Oh yeah, of course. A sword is never just a sword.
Yeah, you have to remember this is the same guy who, not that anyone who would be watching this weekly recap trying to follow the timeline would know yet, but we'll come up in the next couple weeks to Jacob absolutely blowing people's stories out of the fucking water.
It's happened. I did it with you
Twice.
week, and then I did it with Abby the next week.
You did it with me twice, Jacob.
Yes, it did. It was fun. But sorry, Corey, we didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good. I think Locknar is going to purposely divert from what you have intentioned and try to do his own thing, but we have these plans in mind, and then all shit breaks loose. So.
Oh, don't worry. There's always one player that's like, you're not going to tell me how to live my life.
I mean, technically, he could say that because It's not always just the DM's choice.
A Locknar equivalent of a
True, it's a collaborative effort, and if Corey's like, I want to do this, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, let's explore that. Then yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think out of all the characters, to me, Locknar started out the simplest, and I think he's going to become one of the most complex.
Ooh.
Because I know a little bit of Corey's backstory that he has in mind. So I'm gonna be interested to see what he does.
I think Giant's Bane could have a very interesting role to play in this. I could totally see that.
We're starting to definitely open up to where I think everybody's storylines are starting to really like form, and like at the beginning, like episode 1 of our campaign that's on YouTube, is like where we first like kind of like explained that we started looking into role play a little bit more and like actually pushing our story forward from like the few months before we were working on like just learning D&D, and Jacob was kind of building the story from there. But from episode 1 to about probably so in the next couple weeks we'll get to episode about 16, I think. Episode 16 I think is a point where every single person in this group has some sort of part of their story that is interacting with them on a weekly basis, like where you've got Corey's character who has Giant's Bane, and Giant's Bane is not like a big overarch in his whole story, but it's something that's constantly with him that Jacob can bring in every week. And with Zygon, he's obviously a warlock, so he's got powers from a demon that's in his head, and that demon happens to be a big part of the story. With Abby, she constantly.
Brady's not watching this, right?
Oh no! Well, we don't want him to know anyway. But
stuff's gonna go down this weekend.
Oh man. Well, so like just like for every character, like Braun's got he's been getting more with like some of the swords he's been finding and the people he's been fighting, and now being where our campaign is now, so around episode 19 for you guys watching this, back when you're catching up with episode 9 10. We're in Amon now. I won't spoil too much right now. But basically, yeah, it's like, and then Abby's got the Moonweaver and like parts of her family that constantly are just like coming back and forth between the campaign. Am I missing someone there? I think I got everyone.
Anzu's story is not yet done, even though we've made it past.
Yeah, Anzu's story is
more like he's in Act 2 now.
Well, he's
Hunter thinks it's done. Hunter thinks it's done.
Hunter's whole thing is that his character's trying to build a guild, and that's his main goal, which is fine for him to always think, as long as Jacob knows that's not the only thing he's trying to do. But yeah, basically that's it's really cool. As time has gone on, we've come a long way, and we're all now at a point where something can happen to us every single week in the story where it's like, wow, that where the fuck did that come from? So.
And I think my goal since we started, Zach, has been I want them to be so attached to their characters that when one of them dies, at least one person cries.
I think
almost there.
Our biggest issue with that is that Hunter's almost excited for sometimes for
death. He almost welcomes it.
Yeah, because it'd be really hard to imagine Anzu's character Anzu not being in the group, because like his character's big overriding story arc was the very first huge one that we had. It's also like his whole goal, like the whole reason that we are Flagon Slayers is because like Anzu wants to build a guild named the Flagon Slayers, and that was why we became the Flagon Slayers, even though us as a group chose the name. Anzu's character adapted that in game to creating the guild called the Flagon Slayers. If he then dies out, obviously we'll probably keep on going and try to build a guild in his name. What?
Yeah.
We would build.
One of you carry it on. That's going to be interesting.
I think as a group we'd all carry it on, but at the same time, like I don't want him to just like I think we talked about this like last week or like the week before. It'd be really weird to watch someone die and then all of a sudden you have some random new character that they're playing and like no one's really attached to him, and then you have to rebuild that character for like 2 months before people are finally like, oh, okay, this character's awesome. Like, I don't want to lose this one now. But it takes months to do that. It's taken us a year to get where we are now. September will be a year for us, so we're only 2 months out from that.
But in that same vein, no character is safe,
Yeah.
and character death always has to be in the back of the mind of all the players, because D&D is a very real world. Like, if you die, you're pretty much dead. Now, Abby's character Thea is almost to the level where she can bring people back to life.
I technically can, but
yes, also Animus technically can.
but if I resurrect someone, they have to roll a D100, and
Is it reincarnation?
It's reincarnation, and whatever they roll determines what race they come back as, even though it's the same person. So technically, I'd be able to bring him back, but he would be a different race.
It'd be like putting their mind in someone else's body, essentially.
Yeah,
That's actually kind of cool.
yeah, it'd be intense.
Yeah, it's interesting. It leads to some interesting. Like, imagine if Locknar got brought back as a gnome,
or if
barbarian.
Anzu came back as like an
What
orc.
the fuck is that?
Or a god. I mean, he's so funny. But yeah,
an angry little gnome. But I don't know. We'll get there eventually.
yeah, maybe not. Maybe we won't have any deaths. I don't know. Jacob,
Let's not think about that.
Jacob, let's not smile about that right now, all right? Okay, that's not cool. That's not cool. All right, Zach, go ahead and move. What's your next question?
I'm all out of questions.
Oh, okay.
He's all out of questions.
Well, let me. I was gonna have a little question for Corey here. We already brought up his swords and stuff. That was a big part of his overlying character. Is there any part of your backstory that you could bring up right now that would not give away too much? Brady said no. Brady gave away absolutely nothing. I know we saw a character though that you fought in a bar one time. I don't know if we
that
have
other Goliath.
Have we not reached that yet though, or did we reach that already?
Yes.
So, well,
That should have been in episode 9 or 8.
Yeah, it was in Western, so we've
Yeah, I
seen
got it
that
took in.
character. So, can you just talk a little bit about that character before we finish this off tonight?
well, okay. So I don't personally. Well, Locknar doesn't personally know him, but the thing is, the way Goliaths are, they're very tribal. They're tribalistic. And everybody knows everybody pretty much. And Locknar, he's kind of infamous in a way. I'm not going to give away too much. But
Corey, that reminds me, we need to review your backstory.
we do.
You guys could do that right after this if you want to. So
Yeah, like
but anyway.
that Goliath, he knew who Locknar is, and it's not for good reason. And no, I'm excited to get into the backstory of Locknar because I think it is a good one.
yeah,
That I've formulated so far, and well, you'll just have to stay tuned to watch. for
yeah,
more.
awesome. Well, if we have nothing else, does anyone have any more questions for any specific members of the group here?
Who are we having on next week?
Oh man, next week, Jacob. Well, I still haven't had an official episode about me, but at the same time, we probably just won't have that.
Every episode's about you,
yeah,
Caleb.
every episode, I will explain Animus's side of the story. So, weekly recaps, we will continue to have me, Jacob, Zach, and a third character or fourth person.
I think next week would be good for Abby to come back.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
On
She has
the
a
episode.
pretty big part coming up with her
Yeah,
character.
she's in chat. Let's see if
Yeah, she might say something in chat. Well, so next week we're gonna jump into the overlying story arc that we're about to finish for Hunter's character Anzu. We're coming into a major battle, as well as the fact that my character has some weird stuff start to happen to him, where Jacob blows my mind for the first time, of many times that have to come. He also blows Abby's mind. He gets Abby very emotional in one episode. It's really fun, in not like a way of like you're sitting here like ha 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 that was so funny, but really fun because you're like, oh my god, like he just went there. Like that actually made us all sit. Like there was a solid like hour where we all sat there and everyone was in their feels like really hard. So yeah, so we'll jump on hopefully with Abby next week on Wednesday, as every week.
And the main campaign comes back this Sunday.
Yes, this Sunday will be, I think, around episode 19 or episode 20 now. So in the next couple weeks, we should be finally catching up to where we are now. Basically,
Abby says
yeah.
she can't do next week. We'll figure it out.
All right, we will. Yeah, we'll figure it out. She might have to do the next week then. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a great weekly recap. We're finally caught up to a point where our technical stuff is all figured out. We've got Corey as our final member who jumped on to talk about his character.
Thanks for coming, Corey.
Thank you, Corey, for joining us. Hopefully everyone can start kind of like being able to watch these back and be able to understand the characters more, just so that we're not just you're not just watching them in game. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was about to say I've got a
Great ending, Caleb.
Well, I was about to say I have a one shot I just ran this weekend. Not too important for anyone to watch, but
I was in that.
Yeah,
I was
so
Zach was in it.
by the time
I made it.
this it won't be up yet on YouTube like right away as this comes out. But if you guys are watching this like a week or so, even months or years in the future, there should be an episode that has to do with dinosaurs, or like it's called, like, we'll probably call it the Dino Defense, or like dinosaur, or like Jurassic something. Shouldn't be out too much later than this. So check that out. It was really fun. Basically, go ahead and check us out every Sunday. That's when our main campaigns are going. In the next couple weeks, we'll switch over to a couple more one-shots, and then starting at the end of the summer, we're hoping to start revitalizing the show, or not revitalizing, but fully vitalizing the show. Getting things cleaned up really well, getting our social media going, getting people to start coming on and watching more. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, supporting, and keep coming back and watching us in the future. The story's pretty much just started, and we're already almost a year in. So thank you guys.
See you on Sunday.
Yep, see you guys on Sunday.